How does that work for you? Or what kind of challenges that you have seen and you overcome?
So, hey, listen, new levels bring new devils. And if anybody says, oh, yeah, it's so easy. Once you reach a certain level, it's easy. It's because they're not pushing hard enough. That's why. That's why. Right. So there's always some sort of challenge that's taking place. And the world of syndication, when you're first starting, maybe you use your own money to put deals together. Okay, great. So you use your own money, but it can only go so far, especially if you have very, very little money. And then, so now you partner up with some friends, you raise friends and family money. Great. You get further along. And then after a while, the deals are just going to get too big to rely on friends and family, because your friends and family got you all the way up to here. So now what's next, right? So now you have to look at, okay, do I go to family office money? Do I try to talk to someone who can write a big check? Getting to that whole new level.
This is the Real Estate Vibe Show, and I'm your host, Vinky Loomba, a commercial real estate investor. And today I have a very special guest, Agostino Pintus, with me. Welcome, Agostino. Super excited to have you with me.
Vinky, thanks so much for having me on. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. And a little bit about Agostino. He's a founder and CEO of Bulletproof Cash Flow, where he applies nearly 2 decades of real estate experience to source, negotiate, and acquire commercial properties. And today we'll be discussing how to build teams for successful syndications. Welcome again, Agostino. So let's start briefly with your background. Like, how did you become who you are today?
Absolutely. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur my entire life, right? Since I was a kid, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and my route of choice was technology. So I became really, really good at computer stuff, right? I was very good with computers, and even though I wanted to go do my own thing, start my own computer company, do things on my own, my parents always told me, no, get a job. Entrepreneurship is risky. It's terrible, blah, blah, blah. So I stayed in corporate way too long, I would say. And I realized about 17 years ago, maybe 18 years ago at this point, I started getting into real estate, doing small stuff, right? Single families, small multifamily, stuff like that. And just before the crash, the 2008 crash, and ended up just stopping for a while, just focusing on career stuff. But eventually, you know what? I decided it was time for me to re-explore my entrepreneurial bug. I mean, it was always there the entire time. And I decided that, no matter what happened in my life, that real estate portfolio that I built, that all those years prior was still throwing off money. And no matter what turbulence I had in my life, that real estate was always there, throwing off cash every single month. And I'm like, I should just go do more real estate. So I ended up quitting a C-level position. I left technology altogether, never do that again. And if any companies out there ever heard my show, they're going to know I'm not going to go work in corporate anymore at this point. And left corporate to go do real estate. And since then, we've done $350 million worth of deals in both acquisitions and multifamily and net lease products. So we've done all kinds of different asset classes. It's been super exciting, and we're just super excited about what's coming down the pike too. We have more stuff coming. So it's best decision ever made. I probably should have done it 10 years sooner, but hey, you know what? Better late than never, right? Get it started. And that's exactly what we did.
That's true. Better late than never. I did the same thing. My story is exactly the similar like yours. I was in the corporate, single family. Then 5 years ago, moved into multifamily, doing the same thing. But I wanted to hear from you. You're coming from the corporate background and you were in the single family. How did you start in multifamily? What was the trigger point there?
So it was, I think it was, I was listening to a podcast or think of something along those lines where when I decided to make the switch, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And someone had mentioned syndication. I have no idea what it was. So I called up a friend of mine. What's this? What is this syndication? So I called up a friend, an attorney, and he says, he explains syndication in 30 seconds. Like, you raise money from other people, you buy these buildings, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, well, I could do that. And that changed, that short discussion changed the entire trajectory of my life, and it's funny how if you keep your eyes open, you really listen to what people say sometimes someone's dropping some gold on you that could literally change your whole life. That one discussion, I still remember to this very day when it happened, where it happened. I still remember that it was that once I realized that I can do that, it was possible for me. I went ahead and started doing it, and I did one thing I did not do is I didn't get a mentor. I didn't do any of that stuff. All my mentors were so-called virtual mentors in terms of just reading books and studying on my own, because I didn't even know there was such a thing. I was totally an outsider to that whole scenario. And back then, it wasn't nearly as, how should I say, mature as it is today. Right now, it seems that everybody's a syndicator now, right? But it just seems like back then, a long time ago, it was less heard of, So yeah, it's been quite the journey, but it was just realizing that you can do it. It can be done. And once I put it in my head, I made it happen, So yeah, that one discussion was a trigger point right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that how you said it. You can do it, and you did it. And once you put it in your head, you can do it. I love that. That's the way it works, actually. And then the other thing that you mentioned, in no mentors, you did it via virtual mentorship.
Yeah, I did it the hard way.
Yeah, so let's talk about that too, because I kind of took the similar road too. And I just feel like sometimes when you have a mentor, people look up to somebody and they just want you to just do exactly the same the mentor is doing. So not necessarily they get 100% there wherever the mentor is, because they do not want you to explore any other ways, because they just feel like, oh, this is the way, that's it. And there's nothing wrong in that. It works too. But the thing is, they are just putting some limitations around them too. So I just wanted to hear your side of story, since you were like such open to all the knowledge out there, to the virtual mentorship, whether it's a books or podcasts or the videos or whatever you were doing to gather all that information and creating a path for yourself, even though it was hard.
It was very hard at the time, only because of the point of life I was at. So I attacked it. My personality type is, if there's an Enneagram, for those folks that they've never heard of the Enneagram, if you study the Enneagram, there's plenty of other videos on YouTube about it. Look up the Enneagram type 8. And the type 8 is, they have certain, every one of the Enneagrams is from between 1 and 9 have their own like strengths and weaknesses. Well, the one strength that the 8 has is extreme intensity. So if you take an 8, a person with an 8 personality, and you focus them on one thing, they will do that one thing until it's done, right? Which is sometimes good to have. So what I ended up doing was, when I first understood what this whole syndication thing was about, and like I said, I bought single families and some small multifamilies as I was working in corporate. I wasn't entirely focused on it, but I realized at that point in my life, it's like, I got to get focused on it. Like I have no choice. So you almost have to want success more than you want to breathe, if you could even do that, right? I ended up getting a hold of every single program I can possibly get my hands on. I've listened to Carlton Sheets. I've listened to Robert Kiyosaki's, all the different programs, all of them, books, Sam Zell, all these different guys, and started listening and studying back to back to back to back from morning to night, training as if it was like my life depended on it. Right? That's what I was doing, because at the time I was still looking to figure out what I was going to do next with my life, and I just sat there and studied. Hour in, hour out, hour in, hour out, memorizing, studying like crazy, right? And I was very fortunate that when I went to school, like I have a double master's, and I did all the engineering and all that fun stuff. I'm very good at studying, very good at putting that stuff together. Mm-hmm. So for me to study and train and learn it's actually fun for me. So I knew that I had to commit 100% to it. And that's not everyone has that type of, drive and ambition to do it. But I knew that this was the way I had to go. This is what has to be done. And I just committed 100% to doing it, like as if my life depended on it. So if you're gonna go all in on something to build that kind of success, you have to be all in. You have to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Wherever the focus goes, energy flows. You have heard that. And with your focus and concentration was just like learning, acquiring all the knowledge, but you didn't stop there. You took the action too.
Yep.
So the thing is, a lot of the times people forget that how to acquire knowledge because it's hard for them to read books, the videos, whatever. And then they're just acquiring all the knowledge and then do not know what to do with it. Right?
Yeah, well,
and some people, they can't even learn from the books,
I'll tell you what, part of it is, education system, it just sucks, right? The education system sucks. Listen, when we're at school, when I was at school anyway, the teacher makes you read some book they have no interest in. And you better read it or God help you're going to get an F. Well, now you hate it even more. You despise the book, right? So what happens to many of these people when they leave school? It's like, screw this. I'm not reading any more books, which is totally incorrect. You have to keep studying and training you had to be reading a book a week. I read a book a week. I have at the beginning of the year or at the end of this year, I compile a list of books and then I listen to a book a week. I listen to them because it's easier for me to do while I'm moving around and driving around and such. But that's the type of commitment you have to do. You have to keep studying. And I guess somewhere along the lines, at least in my educational, experience, I guess, no one really told me that you have to keep studying. You're studying for the rest of your life. It's not like you're not done at grade 12. You have to keep going, right? Or when you're done school, nobody says that. It's like, great, you're done school. Here's your piece of paper. Go to work now. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. You have to keep studying in order to be successful. You have to study like crazy. And because the more you learn, the more you earn. That's what Warren Buffett says.
That's true. And plus, learning is like every moment in your life, not necessarily by reading books. So if you go out, meet somebody, always there's opportunity to learn something.
Yep.
Everybody has something to offer.
Yep. That's right.
So on that note, I wanted to mention one thing over here because everybody has a different learning styles too. So if you read a book and don't understand anything and do not know what to do with that knowledge, it's always a good idea to experience that. Just go and work with somebody, shadow somebody, or, experience the whole thing. And then you will have more questions, you'll learn better, and the book will make more sense too. That works for a lot of people as well. Just taking the action first and then reading the book, because then the things are more clear versus just, being conceptual and do not know what to do with that knowledge. So let me ask you this. When you started in multifamily, how did you figure out who you wanted to work with? What was your first team finding or building exercise?
Sure. Well, I'll say something that's related to that question, but also related to your last statement too. Listen, someone out there might say, I want to get into multifamily and I want to shadow somebody. And they just call somebody and say, I want to shadow you. Okay, great. I had one of these guys. I'll do anything. I'll even mop the floors just to learn from you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Come in tomorrow. Never showed up. Like he came in the one time and he never showed up again. Right. And it's like, there's a lack of commitment and it's just a waste of everyone's time, So if you're going to say you're going to do something, you got to do it. You just got to do it. If you're not going to do it, then stop wasting everyone's time, And, but anyway, when I decided to get started in putting the team together, right, the first person that I started with was actually the property manager. That was the first one. I've tried to find a property manager in the market that I'm in, which is Cleveland now. A property manager that's been around for a long time. They're not gigantic. They're not like a national or anything else like that, but they're big enough that people might know who they are. Maybe you drive around, you see a bunch of the signs, or you go to LoopNet. If there's one thing that LoopNet is good for is looking at to see who's managing whatever properties and try to see if you can get an audience with them and tell them what your plan is. My plan is to buy X number of units over this amount of time. Is it okay if I use you as a reference as I'm starting to engage with brokers? If you can speak properly, then you can get them on board. Because here's what happens next. Now you got to find a broker. And if you talk to the broker is going to say, great, who's your property manager? It's the first time we're talking to them. It's happened to me numerous times. It doesn't happen anymore. But when I was starting up, it happened all the time. And I go, oh, well, that's Ben. Ben's my property manager. Oh, I know Ben. Ben's been in this market forever. Ben's a good guy. I like Ben. So if I like Ben, I must like you. Right? Mm-hmm. That's how people think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So birds of a feather, right? So it's like if you start there, and then what happens after that? Then you start in with your inspector. You start putting like the building inspector, or not building inspector, but property inspection company. Then we went in with then building out the rest of the maintenance sort of people in terms of just having them available. Because if you line all this up, as well as your investors too, like you're also like you're not just, these are not the only people part of your team. These are part of the team that are actually going to be for the acquisition side. At the same time, you're also talking to investors, you're warming them up, mm-hmm. You're telling them what you're doing and getting them prepared that at some point in the future, your plans to acquire an asset with this type of demographic, this type of return scenario, would you be interested in investing? And if they say yes, great. You get at least a soft commitment out of, say, if you're targeting, say, $1 million, try to get soft commits out of like, say, 3 million, 4 million, right? That way, you know that when you do get ready to close, you'll have the money there, right? Always get more than what you need for soft commits. But when you do get that deal locked up, you're going to have to, like, now you have to engage the team to get in there, inspect it. Is your lender on board with the deal? Do you have the debt lined up? Is it good debt? Do you have a good broker that's going to pull it off? Because here's the thing: if you get the wrong guy to represent you on the debt, you get the wrong. They'll bring in the wrong bank. They'll leave you at the altar. And it's happened, right? Mm-hmm. You always I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but it's happened. You know, it's happened to me. We're mm-hmm. able to, but fortunately, I expect it, right? And then I fire them immediately. Then I fire them and never do business with them again. I always now I have a way better team now, right? But the point is that that's where there's a lot of effort that takes place in interviewing, getting to know these people. But before you even get that far, you really have to know how to speak. You really have to sound convincing that you can't sound like a newbie when you're doing all this. You just mm-hmm. can't. Because if they detect newbiness, they'll just blow you off and hang up the phone, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't ever want to come off like that. You don't ever want to come off like that.
Yeah, but it could happen, when somebody's starting new.
Oh, sure.
They just like really good at talking, but they could always miss one thing here or there. And which should not be a really big thing, if the willingness is there and they wanted to learn and they wanted to improve themselves, it should be fine. But on this note, I wanted to ask you, when you're looking for partners, whether it's a property manager or even a capital raiser, or in your acquisitions team, or you're building broker relationships, what kind of qualities that you look for when you're selecting a member? Because beside the technical knowledge, there gotta be some soft skills too, or some qualities that resonate with you, so that it's a good team, strong team, because this relationship is going to last 3 to 5 years, or maybe 10 years in your case, because you're in the easy.
Yeah, it's a great question. There's always telltale signs if a partner is going to be a good partner. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're so small that you may fail to miss them if you don't pay attention, right? I'll give you an example. If you say to a potential partner, okay, great, we're all gonna meet at this location at 1:00, and the guy rolls in at 1:30, clearly he doesn't have respect for your time, nor does he have respect for his own time. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't have respect for people's time, he's probably not at the level that you need to be a good partner, right? Mm-hmm. So they lack time. They don't follow through with what they're going to say and do, right? Mm-hmm. And then to take it further, what they say or do, they finally deliver something. It's not even close to the quality that needs to be to cut the mustard because of some nonsense they come up. They're full of excuses, right? So it's like, I never just take someone on as an investor in terms of when we're putting deals together. But or even as a partner for that matter. I'm super, super, super selective when it comes to partners. I'm probably, again, I'm because of the personality type, it's like, it takes a while for me to really figure out if I really want to work with somebody. But regardless, I still think it's good qualities because, like you said, you're going to be married, air quotes, married to this person for as long as that deal's alive.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing you want to do is sign up with somebody who is not committed to the success that deal needs. And then it falls all on you. Because I've seen that happen and it's really ugly. It's not fun to watch. And it's not fun. Obviously, it would never be fun to be part of it either. So you have to be highly selective. Look for the soft skills. Maybe they got the technical skills. Great. Maybe they have it. And that's easy to determine. Look at this pro forma. What do you think about XYZ? And if they answer it wrong, then clearly they have it or not. But if they have a lack of respect for themselves, they show up all disheveled and messy, you schedule a meeting and they don't show up at all. These are signs that something's wrong with their life. And you know what? Maybe it's better just to let them sort it out. Maybe they'll come back to you, or maybe they won't, right? Because again, when you are responsible for other people's money, you better make sure that money is taken care of. And the last thing you want to do is put someone there who is a partner with someone who is not as committed to the deal as you are. That's the last thing you need in your life. You just don't need it. You're better off doing it by yourself, or not doing it all if you need a partner, than trying to take someone on and then having to explain down the road why that partner bolted or whatever the case may be, or can't deliver, right? The telltale signs are always there. They're never hidden. It always comes out. It always comes out. Time is the big discriminator. Time will always tell you. Time will always tell you.
That's true. And I think not everybody has the same level of commitment. Because like we've been talking before the podcast too, and during this time as well, that you're really, really committed to your work. And you are authentic and you are very true to yourself. In a lot of people, they're not true to themselves even, because they're wearing so many masks and so many roles they're playing. And sometimes in that role playing, you forget your own personality, who you are.
Yeah.
So in order to be committed to something or having the level of focus and concentration like you have to be true to yourself. You have to be authentic. You need to know who you are as a person first. Yeah. You need to value yourself. You need to respect yourself. Unless you respect yourself, you won't be able to portray that out to the world. So on that regard, I'm going to ask you this question. How do you ensure effective communication and collaboration within the team? Because it's very important for the team to be on the same page and not slacking or delaying the tasks.
Yeah. Well, to comment on what you just said a second ago too, before I get into that question, is that, so I have a vision board, right? And my vision board, whenever we do our coaching and training, I put together a vision board, right? I have the students put together a vision board, which describes what they want to see in their life. And in my vision board, I want to get to $1 billion in assets. To get to $1 billion in assets, you need to be worthy of $1 billion in assets. If you can't even keep your clothes on straight or you can't even show up to a meeting, you're not worth you're not going to be worthy of $1 billion. You're just not. So the successful people always show up, and they always show up on time, and they deliver every time, and then they go do the next thing. That's what they do. Do what they do, right? So, but that's what it is. You got to be worthy. If you want to be a billionaire, you got to be worthy of being a billionaire. That's ultimately what it comes down to: building the habits necessary to fulfill that goal, right? So, but yes, when it comes to communication, we have a variety of ways of communicating. At least I do anyway. So. We just have regular old email, of course, is sometimes how we do it, just for, obviously email messaging. But when it comes to, like, say, asset management, we do a weekly meeting every week, same time. We have a set schedule of what we go through and certain KPIs that we also discuss too. So every single week, it's the same thing that we're discussing. There's no surprises. Like, we want to know the basics of the asset, vacancy. We look at economic occupancy, physical occupancy. How much revenue do we make? Where's the loss is taking place? Any accidents or fires or whatever? That's all discussed. But something else that we also do at least on some of the other businesses that we have, is we use WhatsApp for instant communication. So we keep it all of it's kept historically, of course, and we also yeah, I guess that's how we do it there too. So for instant communication, we use a lot of WhatsApp for that. And again, we want to track the history so we can also go back and say what was said, and the whole group gets to see what conversation is taking place. So it's also easier to share documents and things like that too, and look it up and find it, as opposed to trying to track all that with an email. So it's somewhat difficult to do, I think at some point we're probably going to do like Telegram or something a little more secure. We don't put up any how should I say, proprietary information up there, any type of rental apps or anything else like that. Like nothing that could be with social security numbers or anything else like that. That's the CIO in me that still comes out. I don't like sharing that information outside of the regular systems. But if it's just communication, that's how we do it.
So for the team building strategies, you do follow storming, norming, performing exercises.
Oh yeah.
I say that all the time. Those work all the time, regardless what area of the business you're in. Because it's good to follow that. I mean, you need to at least not follow 100%, but needs to know where the person is, at what level that you bring the person into your team, and where you want it to start building the relationship with that team member.
Yeah, and part of it's being visible too. I think that even if you're an owner, in a deal, like fortunately, all the deals that I'm partnered with here in Cleveland, I get to just go there and see what's going on. I can see it personally, right? Which is a big deal. And I think that goes a long way. So that way that the people there on the floor, or rather on the ground, know that, oh yeah, this guy actually cares. He shows up. He's looking. Hey, why is this trash over here? Why is this over here? Why is that over there? That kind of thing. And then they won't let that happen in the future if they know that you might stop in on a random Tuesday and then say, oh, what's going on over here? I better keep this place clean because Agostino might show up, right? That's really what it comes down to. So yeah.
Esther, I think there's a fine line between managing or working with somebody versus micromanaging too,
Yeah.
So that kind of turns people off too. So I'm going to ask you here, what are some of the challenges that you have faced when you were building the teams, or you're still in the team building exercise because maybe every syndication you wanted to bring 1 or 2 new people in? How does that work for you? Or what kind of challenges that you have seen and you overcome and then?
Sure. So, hey, listen, new levels bring new devils. And if anybody says, oh yeah, it's so easy. Once you reach a certain level, it's easy. It's because they're not pushing hard enough. That's why. Right. So there's always some sort of challenge that's taking place. And the world of syndication, when you're first starting, maybe you use your own money to put deals together. Okay, great. So you use your own money, but it can only go so far, especially if you have very, very little money. And then, so now you partner up with some friends, you raise friends and family money. Great. You get further along. And then after a while, the deals are just going to get too big to rely on friends and family, because your friends and family got you all the way up to here. So now what's next, right? So now you have to look at, okay, do I go to family office money? Do I try to talk to someone who can write a big check? Getting to that whole new level, a level that you've never been at before, is somewhat difficult because it requires your mind to expand beyond what it is today. And it's you can really fool yourself, right? Because again, our species was, I guess, evolved is probably the best term. Our species evolved to protect ourselves. That's priority one. We don't even realize that we're doing it. Now, I give an example. When someone buys a book about real estate, so those chemicals are released in their brains, the endorphins are released in their brains. They're like, oh my God, I'm on my way to getting real estate now. And then they read the book and they take it and they put it on the shelf. And there it is. I'm on my way, right? But because the brain wants to keep your body safe, wants to keep you safe. Ultimately, that's the brain's responsible for keeping
a mechanism right there.
That's what it is, So that the next level for us is going to be going after family office money, going after those people that can stroke one check and fund a deal. That's really what it comes down to. So I would say that when you're talking about your investor partners, which is they're a big part of your group, they're a big part of your partnership. That's probably one of the bigger challenges, because they won't talk to you unless you have a track record, until you're very well spoken, how to put a deal together. They can ask you a challenging question and you can answer it with confidence. If you can't do that, it becomes very, very difficult to get any deals done, really. So that is where I see is like, now we're targeting, much, much larger deals. And to do that, it requires a very different level of investor, So when it comes to just regular, the quote, air quote, regular and, day-to-day operational stuff, we're very lucky. We have great property management in place that with good leaders there that they keep an eye on things in that regard. I'm not a micromanager by any stretch. I never was a micromanager. I do like to check in. Ronald Reagan used to say, "Trust but verify." That was his thing. Always trust them, but go in and check it out anyway, just in case. Always verify. Nothing wrong with that. Look, and we do that every week anyway. We go over the numbers, but there's one thing about going over the numbers is, but you also want to see with your eyes what's going on. It's very important to do that. So, that's really what it comes down to. So we're lucky that we have that, and I've also put into place some very good team members to help us source new deals and build those relationships. I mean, these days, we have a good, strong relationships with many of the top brokers here in town. So like I said, I mean, it's kind of like, building more relationships with maybe brokers out of Cleveland, out of this market, to keep growing in that way. But I think for the time being, we're still focused on the Cleveland market, just because I still believe that for the time being, there's still a lot of upside here. So when I get to leverage my home base a little longer and just keep it growing,
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong. Plus, the market inside out, what could be a better place than that? But I want to ask you one question here. You talk about the family offices are the ultra high net worth individuals, How do you build relationship with them, or what exactly you're doing in that arena to nurture those relationships or even get started?
Yeah, it's going to be largely through introductions, largely through going to the right conferences, meeting the right folks that know those sorts of people. And if you're good enough and you're out there enough and you put your information out there, and they'll find you too. That's another way too. They will find you. Like, family offices are always looking for competent people to invest in as well, right? I wouldn't go with that passive route, however. That's like an added type scenario, but it's really just going to the conferences, go to where they are. That's probably the best way to do it, right? Go to the conferences, go to the places that they are at, and explain your story, and make sure that you can explain it in less than 20 seconds. What do you do, and what do you like, and what's so special about you? Why should I care? And if you're going to
add value,
it's like you have to be able to deliver value. And the funny thing is that value equation to a billionaire is the same value equation you deliver if you're starting out to a possible mentor. It's the same value equation,
so
same thing. And many people fall off just by talking to a mentor, which is that's the person that can get you in the door, and you totally screw it up. Don't screw it up. That's it. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like, make sure you do enough studying and training on your own, so when you do talk to that individual, at least you sound like you know what you're doing, and then you can start delivering value. And never ask for anything in return. Never. Unless
you don't need to. See, that's the bad thing. A lot of people, they think like, oh, I'm giving this thing, I want this thing back. So you should go with the intention, how can I add value to this person? When you're giving out more than you ask, you're going to get maybe tenfold back.
That's right.
Maybe from somebody else.
Yeah.
You do not need to ask the same person to give you back whatever you're giving them. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I just look at the bigger purpose or bigger spectrum. It's like, we are here on this earth to help each other grow, connect with each other, and help each other grow. That's the purpose of life. And I think we forget the purpose along the lines.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is such a good conversation, Agostino. I mean, I can keep on talking forever with you. You're adding tons of value for my listeners, but we are out of time. So I'm going to ask you one last question. Share one golden nugget with my audience.
One golden nugget. Well, I would say that what you just finished on right there is when you go and talk to someone, lead with value and never ask for anything in return. Just give as much as you possibly can and keep on giving, because that's how you forge a friendship that can last for decades if you do it properly. And if that relationship is very, very good, you will get paid back numerous times over. That's the best thing, and it's the best thing I can say, and that's huge. You know, it really is. That's what I did. That's what I did personally. So yeah.
No, I really, really like that. And then don't think you don't have anything to give. Everybody has something. Everybody can add some value to somebody, because most of the time when you meet somebody who's a higher net worth or who you think knows more than you, what value I can add? But there is always something that person might not know and you know. So do not underestimate yourself. I love that. So this brings us to a rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You have to answer in 1 word or 1 sentence only. Ready?
Okay, go.
All right. So first question is, what is the one most important thing that you've learned in your life, and how did it change your life after learning it?
Give first. Always give first. And yeah, that's it. Show up and give first. I never did that previously. I never did that. It was always about me. And
I like that.
And I stopped that. Got way further.
What is the best book that you have read or recommend to my audience?
Oh, okay. That one's easy. On the Shortness of Life by Seneca. That book also changed my life too. We realized that we live our lives like we have infinite amount of time.
That's so true.
But our time is finite here, and you shouldn't waste it. You know, use every moment that you have to build your business, to build your dreams. That's really what it's for.
That's true. And you only this moment right now, you don't have anything before or after, because before was past and future you do not know. You only have this moment. So you have to do it right now, everything.
Yep.
In 1 word, what does life mean to you?
I almost said money. I can't say that. That's not good. I can't say that. Oh my God. What does life mean to me? It really is family. It's family.
That's good. So money is not bad either. Money's
a strong second. It's a strong second.
Yeah, money is an energy. So what is your biggest passion?
Oh, real estate. That's easy.
If you could turn back in time and talk to your younger self, what would that be and why?
I would have told my younger self to get into real estate, start studying the real estate game, and become confident in doing real estate. That's bar none for sure. I would have told him to do that. And my life would have been completely different. You know, good or bad, it would have been completely different. Bulletproofcashflow.com is probably the best way. We're all over social media, so we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, under either, usually as myself to Agostino Pintus, and easy to find.
Thank you. I love the conversation with you today.
Yes, thank you so much.